I think that's pretty good.
Hell yeah. That was
Much
good. That's
better.
the intro right there. Right? Okay. Yo, it's your boy Carlos. What's good, Octagon?
What's good, man? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, sipping on some Topo Chico.
Hell yeah, nice
You,
dude.
you know,
Got it.
you know, hopefully we get sponsored by them. What's good with you, bro?
Just chilling, man. Having a seltzer, apple seltzer.
Hell yeah, brother.
Austin East cider. Have you had the ciders or no?
Yeah, you gotta shop local.
Hell
What's
yeah.
good? All right, episode 3. Thank you for everybody tuning in again. This episode, we're gonna cover the Austin shooting at the Black Lives Matter protest, and just gun laws in general and how it affects minorities, and we're gonna take a deeper look into that.
Yeah. So over the weekend, we lost Garrett Foster. He was in Austin, Texas, in support of Black Lives, open carrying his assault rifle, as it is legal in the state of Texas. A car recklessly drove through the protesters, and he approached the car with his AK. And as he approached, the driver shot and killed Garrett. They both had a right to carry their weapons, the driver and Garrett. But with stand your ground laws in Texas, you don't have to be on your properties to use self defense.
After shooting Mr. Foster 3 times, he ends up leaving the scene. He calls the cops saying he was one of the shooters involved, that he followed the stand your ground law, which allows people to shoot someone if they're in fear for their life.
Yeah, and with stand your ground laws, you don't have to be on your property. So I think it was in the '90s they had a law where you can use self defense in your home, and if you feel that anyone threatens you in your home, you can use your gun. And with stand your ground laws, now you're allowed to use that same reasoning, threaten, but you don't have to be in your home no more. And so, what many experts are saying, and many people are looking at, is how these laws are only in favor of white gun owners rather than minority owners with guns. For example, like when with these laws, when we try to apply them to minorities, they don't work, or the law, I guess is like the law is racist, or the law is against minorities, that it doesn't protect them in the same way.
Emmanuel Fitzgerald Bradford Jr., a former Army recruit and a licensed firearm owner in Alabama, an open carry state. The police department has yet to release a video of the incident, but we know that Bradford was carrying his gun at the mall on Thanksgiving night when someone else began shooting. The kind of situation where I'm sorry, the kind of situation where gun proponents often claim that being armed will save the day. Bradford responded by drawing his gun and directing shoppers to safety, reported the New York Times. But when police arrived, witnesses say they shot him within milliseconds.
Yeah. So he this is a situation where he is a good guy with the gun. He is helping people out, and he ends up being killed.
So you have minorities, black men following the NRA, getting guns legally, registered, having all the permits, and yet they're still being killed. Like whenever we see all these protests of, you know, Caucasians marching down the streets, most of the time there's no police there. They're just there walking safe, or like freely with AK-47s. You know, up to like 3 to 4 guns on them, and you know you have one guy over here standing for Black Lives Matter, and they want to go ahead and just pretty much just say that he was in the wrong.
Yeah, so not only is the law racist as it is, like how like the criminal justice system is, it doesn't protect the same because this person is following the law. He's doing things that we're being told to do from conservatives, from pro pe- pro open carry people, pro stand your ground like advocates. Uh, and he's following the law and he ends up getting shot and and so it's the hypocrisy in it is just it's there.
Yeah, there's this double standard where if it's a minority that is armed, the police, their first instinct is to shoot first and ask questions last. And even at that, it's not like they're shooting out of fear. You know, shooting out of fear is 1 or 2 shots. Most of the time is up, like, you know, you see these videos and it's like 5, 6, 7 shots, and they're following the law.
That's not the only case. In the same article, it says just 2 weeks prior, a police officer killed Jamil Robertson, a black security guard and registered gun owner who responded when several men began shooting at the Illinois nightclub where he worked. When the police arrived, Robertson was doing his job. He legally had his gun out and has subdued one of the men with his knee on the man's back. It didn't matter. The officer shot and killed Robertson, even as witnesses warned them he was a security guard. I mean, man, like how we're being told by officials, we're being told by those in power, like, yes, be the good guy with the gun, and when you try to be the good guy with the gun, like you just put yourself in a situation where it's like it's not even worth to be the hero.
Yeah, and this goes back to Malcolm X and the Black Panthers. You know, like I believe it was 1967 whenever they started forming and telling the black community that they should be uh, getting guns for themselves to protect themselves. The Black Panthers had a statement that said, "We believe we can end police brutality in the black community by organizing black self-defense groups that are dedicated to defending our black community from racist police oppression and brutality. The Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States gives us the right to bear arms. We therefore believe that all black people should arm themselves for self-defense." So this goes back in time to, you know, the earlier days.
Yeah, those days when the Panthers were organizing with public in public with guns as its organizing power, uh, people people paid attention, and the government definitely did not want them owning guns, and definitely didn't want them organizing around guns. Like, and they did that, and this goes way back. This goes way back before that. The government has always not really wanted minorities to own guns. Right after the Civil War, in the 1860s, in the aftermath of the Civil War, several southern states passed racist gun control measures that were explicitly designed to disarm newly freed black Southerners. So thing has always been a systemic thing. As you mentioned, the Black Panthers were arming themselves in protection of themselves, and I feel when we talked about how it was this these open carry gun laws that we have in the country, when we talk about how they are not only racist but they're also anti-progress. Like, we seen Garrett Foster get killed, and he's a white guy, and the law didn't respect him, and it looks like it's not going to respect him because what he stood for is progress, with progression, what we want next in the country, and so it's anti-racist, but it's also anti-progressive. So I mean, it's racist and it's also anti-progressive.
Whenever people that are pro-gun see all these minorities in the streets with, with firearms, they get intimidated, and for out of nowhere they want all this gun control because they think it's just for them. Like they think that the law should only apply to them. Yeah, and I don't see the NRA making any statements for whenever these um, minorities, people of color, are getting killed by following, protocol. They say get your gun, follow the law, be the good guy with the gun. But at the end of the day, they don't even take the time out to acknowledge the fact that people are getting killed. People of color are getting killed for owning guns. The spokesman of the NRA has never said anything, and where's Trump? Trump is pro-gun, and whenever it comes to people of color, he just doesn't acknowledge them.
Yeah, he doesn't even mention it. When they try, when these people are doing the things that are being told to do by them, this is by Trump. He's the one that talks about good guy with the gun will stop somebody. I hear other people mention like some type of gun control, because a lot of times these people that have the guns, they shouldn't even be able to own one, because they never like they had a record. So we have very loose gun control laws, and people like Trump say, hey, good guy with the gun can stop them. And look, we have good people of color with the gun doing the things that sometimes is not very likely to happen, for them to be able to like stop a situation with somebody else with the gun, because it's very hard. Statistically, it's almost, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's not super easy to do. And when they do it, as they want them to, they end up getting killed, because a person of color with the gun is not something police want to see. And even police, even before these laws, they were one of the people that didn't want the open carry laws. Like, it makes their job very, very difficult. Like, they have to carry their weapons. They have their weapons. They see people out with weapons. Many times they are trigger happy, so that's something they don't want to see, people out with guns. But when the people out with guns right now, because we used to have, as you said, we had people organizing, minorities organizing around guns, like the Black Panthers did. But we had, and then they passed gun control laws after that, and now we're at a time where the people that are organizing around guns are the extreme right, mostly white males, carrying their guns, organizing open carry, like using the law, because now it's been passed into law, to organize, and so our government has very loose restrictions because of who's carrying the guns at this moment.
Yeah, and there's been mass shootings that, for example, the mass shooting that happened in El Paso. Um, after that shooting, a lot of Latinos ended up registering for guns to protect themselves. But even at that, there's several cases where Latinos are getting killed for having a gun.
So after the shooting in El Paso, it was reported that more people in El Paso, Hispanic people, were buying guns, and it was very noticeable. And this is a quote from somebody at the Walmart. It says, "We actually had two people buy guns here who were actually in the Walmart on the day of the shooting. The other people are just saying, hey, I want to be able to protect myself in the event of something going on." And I feel like that's a very natural response, because I felt the same way too. After that happened, even being at some protests where you see like these guys that are armed, they're like these white guys that are armed being like flaunting their guns. Like, you never, like, it's kind of scary. Like, they just have their guns. Who knows if they'll shoot at you? Like, I mean, it's my right too as to own a gun as well. But when we look at these facts of our criminal justice system, and how the law works and is applied, it's not in our favor, for us to be carrying a weapon, but I mean, definitely we have to protect ourselves, and that's what people are doing. They're going and buying weapons to protect themselves, and I mean, it's something we should all know. Yeah, you definitely, if you want to buy that weapon, do it. It's within your right. It's a thought that we've all had. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. I'd feel safer with having a gun just in case, because you never know. You never know. What if you're at Walmart and there's a shooting, or you go to the theater? You go to the theater anywhere, schools.
Yeah, dude,
Not to say too often.
you want to be the one to protect. You want to be the one to do something about it. Um, but it just sucks that like we have to like think about the consequences if we do end up trying to be the person I mean, if we end up open carrying, and then like we get into that situation, it's something we have to think about. Like if what happens after, where the police gets there, like how do you, like, I don't know, like you have to think about, they might shoot you just because you're a minority, or they might shoot you just because you have a weapon in general. We had a congresswoman actually
Yeah.
question the attorney general about the same double standards that we are talking about today, which is how our government views minorities versus non-minorities, and she actually she goes in on him, honestly. You want to look at it?
Yeah, for sure.
Let's get some inspiration.
Let's see. All right.
On June
Attorney
1st,
General
I
Barr,
was
you
worried
seem
about
to
the
be
District of
engaging
Columbia,
in
which is
protests
federal.
in certain parts of the country. You're very aware of those, but when protesters with guns and swastikas
I am
Confederate
aware of
excuse me,
protesters
Mr.
in the
Barr, this
federal
is my
government.
time and I control it. You are aware of certain kinds of protesters, but in Michigan, when protesters carry guns and Confederate flags and swastikas and call for the governor of Michigan to be beheaded and shot and lynched, somehow you're not aware of that. Somehow you didn't know about it, so you didn't send federal agents in to do to the president's supporters what you did to the president's protesters. In fact, you didn't put pepper balls on those protesters. So the point I'm trying to make here, Mr. Barr, that I think is very important for the country to understand, is that there is a real discrepancy in how you react as the Attorney General, the top cop in this country, when white men with swastikas storm a government building with guns. There is no need for the president to, quote, activate you, because they're getting the president's personal agenda done. But when black people and people of color protest police brutality, systemic racism, and the president's very own lack of response to those critical issues, then you forcibly remove them with armed federal officers, pepper bombs, because they are considered terrorists by the president. You take an aggressive approach to Black Lives Matter protests, but not to right-wing extremists threatening to lynch a governor if it's for the president's benefit. Did I get it right, Mr. Barr?
I have responsibility for the federal government, and the White House is the seat of the
Mr.
executive
Barr, let me just
branch,
make it clear.
not
You
for
are supposed to
the Michigan
represent
authorities
the
can
people
handle.
of the United
Michigan
States
authorities
of
can
America,
handle.
not violate people's First Amendment rights. You are supposed to uphold democracy and secure equal justice under the law, not violently dismantle certain protesters based on the president's personal agenda.
Gentlelady's time is
Well, there was a lot in there that we could talk about, but like, as we all heard, the main fact was they're sending certain people. They're sending federal agents to certain protests, and for the agenda of Trump.
Yeah, so like her main question was like, why is our government only focused on a Black Lives Matter protest, fighting for the rights of Black lives, and he only wants to call those protesters anarchists, terrorists, whatever slander he could throw at them. But when there's white males in the state capitol threatening government officials that are not Donald Trump's supporters, but they are government officials. He doesn't do anything about it because these people support him, and it's honestly it's kind of a crazy thing to think about.
So you have this group of people marching up to the state capital of Michigan, talking about beheading the governor. That's the definition of terrorist, you know? Someone who implies force for fear, pretty much. Those are the actual terrorists, not these people fighting for equal justice. White supremacists have long embraced open carry and the use of firearms as a method of intimidation to suppress the constitutional rights of others.
Yeah, I mean that's really the history of our country. The white supremacists have always used violence to protect their rights and what they perceive as their privilege. From after the Civil War, the beginning of the KKK, to Jim Crow, and they started getting also political power. Started passing laws that were racist, and we still have some of those things in place right now, and we see it again. I mean, the country, I feel like, is changing, and there's a lot of people in here in the country that are don't like I guess the changes that are coming. A lot that identify maybe with like the system, the status quo being as it is, and they want to be out there, and they want to like not allow change to happen, and it's history, you know. It's been proven. I mean, they have been doing it. I remember reading something about like how the KKK was like not allowing black people to vote and using violence, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like I feel like we're seeing it again now, where we have these groups like we're at a Black Lives Matter protest, and they're out there with their guns, like intimidating, scaring people, and truthfully, they are scaring people. Like I heard myself a few people being scared to go to the protest. I mean, when you're out there, it is a little scary. You see the cops all out there, like not knowing like what they're gonna do. There's a lot of them. They're coming from like different places. Like I don't know. It seems kind of like intimidation, and then you have them facing us, the Black Lives Matter protesters, and then them, their backs towards guys with AR-15s and assault
So
rifles.
let me ask you this: what do you think about guns and just open carry and all that?
Man, in an ideal world, you'd want some pretty good gun control laws where not everyone can own a gun, like especially people that have had like problems like with violence before. But I mean, I personally, like, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm thinking about owning a gun, but I'm just like, fuck, like, yeah, it might come to that because of these things that happen, you know?
Yeah, well, with me, I'm pro gun. You know, I feel like you should own a gun, but it all comes down to, you know, how's your background? You know, do you have any like mental issues? There, it shouldn't be as easy to get a firearm, for sure. Like you should be at least 21. At least 21, because you could go to a fucking a pawn shop. All you need is an ID, pretty much. All you need is an ID.
We have we have some pretty loose laws, but as to own guns, like they have these gun shows where you can just go buy a gun. I think I saw something where like a 14-year-old was buying a gun at a gun show. Like,
Yeah.
then like what? Like, but I mean,
Yeah,
that's
money
because
talks. Yeah, money talks, and the NRA just has to take more responsibility because they launder all this money. They lob all this money to politicians. Oh, say this about this gun. Oh, say this, say that. Why? Because money talks. The NRA is gonna keep funding all these millions of dollars every year, and continue selling to the real terrorists all over the world, not just here. And the fact that they don't take no responsibility for the mass shootings or like this hate crimes happening. They don't acknowledge nothing. So fuck the NRA. Episode 3. That's a wrap. Again, continue following, continue showing love, thumbs up, share, subscribe, turn those notifications on. Find us on iTunes, podcasts, on YouTube, social media. You can find me on Instagram, Don X Chacho. Follow us on Instagram at Talks and Strange Thoughts. What's up, bro? What do you have any plugins? Any shout outs?
Yeah, man. Talks and Strange Thoughts. Follow us. Follow me on Octavio L77.
We're gonna keep dropping all this content. Until next time, adios.
Later.